I wasn't able to react live to the Nintendo Direct for February 2023, and that was mostly just because it was on very late. It was on very late for me, and I'm not really a person that can react to stuff late, especially since there's people in my household who wake up at like 4 a.m. So like there's not really like for work. I couldn't really like sit there and be like, oh my god, it's Pikmin! And have like a nice reaction. I would have to be like, oh dudes, it's Pikmin. But like, I did watch the Direct, and I actually think that it was pretty great. I don't think like everything was fantastic, but I do think that a lot of the highlights were really, really high. I think that they did a fantastic job of showing us what's going to be happening in at least the first half of 2023 and beyond. I think because of that, my channel is probably going to be focused a lot on Nintendo stuff this year, which for me is perfectly fine, and I'm perfectly happy with that. The show started off with Pikmin 4. Pikmin 4 looks gorgeous. You have a new Pikmin pet that you can attach your Pikmin to and go through water. You can freeze water with ice Pikmin. This is just a beautifully gorgeous game that like proves once again that Nintendo just make the prettiest games on earth, and they don't have to do it with this big technical budget or this big technical know-how. They don't have to make games look super realistic, and it's still the prettiest thing you've seen in a long time. This won't be on many Game of the Year lists, of course it won't, but I do think that it's going to be a really fantastic game. I think people forget sometimes that Nintendo just make good games. Like, that's what they do. They're really good at that. Really fantastic at that. The Xenoblade Chronicles 3 expansion pass was, like, also announced. I just want to get my hands on it. I don't really want to, like, talk about it at length. I love Xenoblade Chronicles 3. It's my game of the year for last year, but still at this point, I just want to play it. I really do. But I don't know. Like, one thing that is kind of funny about Xenoblade is that a lot of people finished that game fairly early, like back in like what, like July? I was still playing that game in September because of the way we're doing it on the channel. I'm still reeling from Xenoblade. I haven't gotten to a point with Xenoblade where I'm like, oh man, I just need more Xenoblade. I'm at a point where I'm just like, man, Xenoblade is still very fresh in my mind. It feels like I just finished that game. So when I saw the expansion pass announced, I was kind of like, I'll be honest, I kind of just went like, okay, cool. When like I think a lot of people were probably going crazy for that. There was a game called Fashion Designer or Fashion Dreamer. Yeah, I mean it looked cool. I mean it's just like basically just a game where like you can like dress people up. Why not? Pretty cool. Ghost Trick Phantom Detective looked pretty awesome. It's probably going to be a game that we can like, you know, have a bit of fun in. But again, it's something that like I don't have a lot of experience in, and that's similar to Deca Police. But Deca Police actually looks really good too. Bayonetta Origins also similarly to me looks very cool. I think the art style is fantastic, but it's a game that I probably will never play. Splatoon 3 had a very interesting trailer for me also, but again, it's a game that I have never played before. I don't know if we will get around to it, but it looks like the story might be a little bit deeper than I've been giving it credit for. Which to me is, it's a lot of games that I like. I think it happens a lot for people who don't play video games that they believe they have like a preconceived notion of video games. That happens a lot with Zelda, where people just go, "Oh, you just slashed the sword, you saved the princess." Man, some of the games are like literal game changers in video games. They have changed people's perception of video games, and you just gotta try them. Fire Emblem Engage is one of those games, like Scarlet and Violet, that is like always going to be on my mind because it's a game that I truly want to play. And so they announced an expansion pass for this as well, with new characters in it as well that are old characters. I love Fire Emblem Three Houses. I like Fire Emblem Fates quite a bit. I just like don't know when we're going to have the time. I would really love to play this on the channel. I would really love to play Fire Emblem Engage. It would take a long time, so I'm wondering if it's probably better to do it when we have a bit more time on our hands. Of course, this is, you know, not my job, so I can't really play it all the time, even though, like, I would genuinely, like to. Like, I would genuinely love to play this game, like, all the time. And, like, I think that if it was, you know, like, if I had more time, it would be one of those games that would be definitely on the list. But I think the game is going to be a very long game. I've heard it's really good, though. I heard the combat is, like, at its peak. And I heard a lot of naysayers saying the story wasn't very good, but, like, hey, what can you say about that? Like, I haven't played it. I can't give an opinion on that at this time. The Etrian Odyssey Origins Collection, basically the biggest thing for me is that they make this game more accessible. I think that, like, accessibility in video games for, not just for, like, disabilities, which is really important too, but also, like, just for people who suck at video games. And here's the thing, that sounds like an insult. I'm pretty sure if I played these games, I'd probably suck at them too. I'd probably be really bad at them. And, like, to me, like, it's like, Auto mapping, yes. You know, lower difficulties for maybe people that wouldn't be able to do the really tough, like, hardcore combat, yes. Cool, that's a cool thing. And I don't think anyone can really argue against that. It looks great. I think that it's great that these games aren't going to be lost on the 3DS. I think it comes at the same time that they're announcing that they have the 3DS shutdown. So it kind of makes sense to have these games now on the Nintendo Switch. Advance Wars 1 and 2 reboot. They announced, I think they announced that there's going to be multiplayer with these games too. This game was supposed to release last year. And I think that because they delayed it because of what happened with the war in Ukraine, which was the right move to do, I think that what they're doing now with the game, which is like, hey, we're going to announce, like, we have online multiplayer, we have all these new features and all these new stuff. It's kind of like, hey, this is why we took a little bit more time. We didn't just, like, put the game on the shelf and go, we'll release it next year. We have a little bit more to add to it to give you a new thing. Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe has a Magalore DLC. I'm surprised I didn't see more people shocked about this. This to me is pretty freaking cool to be able to play as, like, the main bad guy in the series. Really cool. But they give away the ending to the game. They give away the ending to the actual game, in the actual the actual playthrough itself, which is hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious. Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games are coming to Nintendo Switch. I literally put out a tweet a few weeks back saying that I would, meaning me, Calvin, also known as Romer, I would 100% not emulate Game Boy games if they were on the Switch. Now, they don't have a big collection of video games or Game Boy games yet. They will be adding the Pokemon Trading Card game, which means it's like, man, like, put that on right away. I would have paid the full money for that right now. I love those type of video games. And, like, I also think that there's Game Boy games. The problem is with the Game Boy and the Game Boy Advance is that that was such, like, a banger freaking console system. Both of them were. That they made games for this that were, like, so beloved by so many people. It reminds me kind of like the PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 1, where it's like, you can't choose 20 games to put on this system if you're making a classic Game Boy system, because there's so many games and everyone had different childhoods with these series. If you have, like, a game like the N64, a lot of people go like, yeah, Ocarina of Time, you know, Super Mario 64, Mario Kart, all of these kind of, like, really classic N64 games. But then you go on to other Nintendo consoles like the GameCube, and you kind of go on to stuff like the Game Boy, and you'll find it has this vast library where it's like, oh, my favorite Game Boy game when I was a kid was Yu-Gi-Oh! Stairway to the Sacred Duelist, or whatever, you know? And then someone else is like, my favorite game was like Tweety Bird chases Tom and chases what, Sylvester? Like, I'm making up a game here, but there was a Tweety Bird game when I was a kid. But you get what I'm saying. There's such a vast variety of games. And also, not launching with a Pokemon game just makes me just, like, a little bit weirded out. It's like, man, like, Pokemon Gold and Silver and Pokemon Gold and Silver should have been on this, and, like, a Pokemon Game Boy Advance game, or at least a Pokemon Blue should have been on this. It really should have. And the reason why I think it's not on this, hear me out, is apparently in the 3DS sales, online sales, the Pokemon games that are for the Game Boy are still, like, the highest bought games. They still buy those games on the 3DS, which to me is insane. To me is, like, pretty good. No, it's insane in a cool way, but I still would have loved to have had, like, if this had Pokemon, like, Silver on it, I'd be playing it on the Switch right away. I would be on it right now. Metroid Prime Shadow dropped right there, right now. I don't know anything really about this game. I do want to Let's Play it at some point, and we will Let's Play it at some point. A lot of people are complaining about the $40, €40 price tag. Dudes, this has, like, just as much redone textures and redone, like, assets as, like, the Last of Us remake. Like, this is a game that is apparently, like, 15 to 20 hours long, that has apparently a really freaking great combat system, and from what I've seen, a fantastic art style. Like, you're not paying less than this for a game like this nowadays. In fact, a lot of people would make you pay more. If this was on Xbox or PlayStation, you would be paying more. You would be paying way more for this as well. Raincode became a little bit less interested in this game after this trailer. I don't really, like, get the vibe that it's a game that I would really want to play totally, but it is by the creators of Danganronpa, so maybe we might actually try it at some point. Fantasy Life, I wanted to try Fantasy Life for a while, and now that it's kind of like a newer version of this, or I think it's a new game on the Switch, why not? Why not try it out? Why not try it out? Now, of course, we had the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom trailer. I think that this trailer was, hear me out before people kill me. I think the trailer was rather not needed, to be honest. Like, I don't think this made me any more hyped. And I think the people who were like going crazy for it, that's awesome. But for me personally, I would have bought this game anyway. I was buying this game, and you were gonna buy this game anyway too. So the people are like, this sold me on Zelda. Man, you were gonna buy this game. You were gonna purchase this game no matter what. Don't come to me and pretend that you weren't gonna purchase this game. Because you know you were. You know you were. And like for me personally, I of course was gonna purchase this game. But I think the trailer was cool. It showed off some cool new features. There's a lot of theories that are coming out of the woodwork for this game. A lot of people were saying they didn't like Ganon's voice, and I heard this first in my Discord, which is, again, it's a fair opinion. You can have that opinion 100%. And then other people were saying that like it didn't sound right on Twitter either. To me, like, Ganon is the villain. He is, when I think of like video game villains, he is the guy. So him having a voice like this makes perfect sense to me. It just makes perfect sense to me. He shouldn't have like an honorable voice. He shouldn't have like a fancy voice. He shouldn't have like a squeaky voice. He is like the opposite of all of that. He is the antithesis. And I was about to say a word that like I know, but I can't pronounce it today. Pretend that didn't happen, okay? You pretend it didn't happen for me? But I don't know. I don't know what we're getting with this, but for me, I think that this was just cool to show. I think that they wanted to maybe remind people, hey, this game is coming, but people knew it was coming. You could have literally put up a wall of text and been like, pre-order now, The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. And you would have gotten the same amount of sales. And that's not me saying that Nintendo shouldn't put an effort into their marketing campaigns, but you don't need to put effort into a marketing campaign if the game is already sold. It's like when you sell tickets to a rock concert, right? You know, this to me is the biggest rock concert of the year. You sold all these tickets. You sold 100,000 tickets to this rock concert. They're already sold out. And then still somebody's like, hey, well, what if we release another song to try and sell our concerts? Like, dude, we're done. We're done. We did it. We did it. We have all the ticket sales. We have all the ticket sales. And I think that whoever's going to buy Tears of the Kingdom is already going to buy it. The people who aren't going to buy it are going to be convinced later by Twitch streamers or YouTubers. The people who are saying, oh, I didn't like Breath of the Wild, the first part. A lot of them half of them are going to stay away from this game, and the other half who are like, I hate Breath of the Wild, are still going to play the game because they're going to have FOMO, and they're going to be like, wow, this game's actually pretty good, because they, a few of them were pretending that they didn't like the first game. That's okay, too. That's okay, too. We welcome you into the fandom. We welcome you. But overall, I thought this direct was pretty great. I think that you can't always have these like, whoa, mind-blowing announcements, because like, if you announce too many games, they're never going to come out. And the most shocking thing like that happens nowadays is that like we watch like the Game Awards and we're like, there was no new announcements. Like, yeah, because we still have like 70 games that were announced last week and they still haven't come out. We're still waiting on Final Fantasy 16. We're still waiting on Tears of the Kingdom. We're still waiting on Metroid Prime. Like, all these games have already been announced. We can wait. We're eating right now. We're eating food. It's like, you ever at Christmas dinner and you're eating your food, and then halfway through your food, you haven't even finished it. Everyone's still only halfway through, and someone goes, watch for dessert. It's like, dude, I'm still eating. Or better analogy, you're on the starter in a restaurant, and the waiter goes, oh, dessert? And you're like, whoa, dude, I haven't even gotten to the main course yet. I hope that makes sense. Guys, like, really, I just thought this was a really great direct. I really do.